Meltzer would say that it seems inevitable that Heyman is going to join the team sooner rather than later, and that this is a lot like Smoky Mountain in the end, where there were deals that could keep the company going a little longer, but Cornette recognized the end was inevitable. And he thinks that Heyman is probably in a similar situation here. And Dave also freestyles that Vince wanting to buy WCW is more about making sure no one else gets those valuable television slots. Whereas with ECW, there is no television to pick up. So maybe that's the difference.
There was a library, though.
Yes, absolutely.
The library had value, knowing where we were going. You're not buying contracts per se. You're buying the library because that's a tangible, real, you can touch it, you can feel it scenario. So that's how that worked out. It wasn't really, strong time slots and all that shit. You're talking about a very tentative, fragile, syndicated TV market. That stuff is fickle as hell. You could be here today, you could be in prime access on some local indies against Jeopardy or Wheel of Fortune or whatever it may be, or you could be on some isolated U at midnight on Saturday night. So the library was what we were really interested in, and because again, Vince didn't have the product knowledge at that time on the positives and the negatives of the talent because he did not watch the show. So he didn't know Joey Styles did commentary solo. And we hired Joey Styles at some point, who I thought was not managed well, but I thought Joey's a really good broadcaster. So that was the deal there. It wasn't time slots as much as it was, and I think Meltzer's wrong on that one, but it was the library in general was what we had our eye on.
Let's talk about some other behind the scenes maneuvering. Meltzer would report that Bruce Pritchard is going to be spending more time working with the writing staff, which is now head up by Stephanie McMahon. He's going to try to insert more wrestling logic into the show. Meltzer would say there are three main writers, two of whom are mainstream television writers, with Stephanie being the third. They're all big fans, but they don't know the wrestling basics about building programs and storylines, and that's where Pritchard will be helpful. He would also note that his brother Tom and Michael Hayes now have involvement in the writing process, although the head booker has, and always will be Vince McMahon.
To this very day.
Do you remember, Meltzer's basically given a report here that the writing staff has hit the wall, and that's the reason we're seeing a lot of the mid-card stuff essentially be repeated, where it's like, hey, didn't they just do that storyline a few months ago with another guy? Do you remember the writing team becoming a little burnout here in early 2001?
Yeah, I think so. What else are you going to do? They got to dig deeper. They got to look at things differently. Getting direction, they write and Vince vetoes it. They come back with another submission. He vetoes it, so then they end up just writing for one person. And they do that for job security and the lack of confrontation. The good thing about Heyman, if Heyman was on that team, was that Heyman embraced confrontation and would have a different slant and a point of view on virtually than anybody else because he had different visions that he explored and he cultivated. So I think there was some of that was going on. I mean, let's remember, this is right before we got to Houston at the Astrodome at WrestleMania 17 and Austin turns heel. Was that good strategy? No. Was it a lame idea? Without a doubt. I talked to Steve just here a while back and we were laughing about it. I said, here we got John Wayne. We want him to be a Nazi. I never understood it. They had no better ideas. It was different, and different doesn't always mean better. So Steve was, so in other words, you're saying to me, the guy that sold more tickets, more pay-per-views, more merchandise in the history of this company, i.e. the history of the business, is we can't think of anything for him. You have to be shitting me. And you call yourself a writer. You're casting agent. You're a director, whatever you want to say you are that fits your ego from the TV world. Because you damn sure don't want to be known as a pro wrestling writer, for God's sakes. That'd just be the kiss of death for Lord Conrad. Couldn't have that. So that's where I see that deal. The evidence in the hitting the wall could be no better illustrated than the fact that, well, why don't we just turn Austin heel? Even though Steve wanted to be a heel, he wanted to try it because being a heel is more fun than being a babyface. It was at one time, perhaps, for some talents. But Austin was that quasi guy. He had the significant colors of gray. He was never told he wrestled as a heel, as a babyface. So I never really understood that. I was not for it from the beginning. Steve and I talked about it. I talked with Vince about it until I was blue in the face and I didn't close my deal. So yeah, they hit the wall because when you can't figure out an idea to use Austin as a babyface to get a heel hotter than hell and give Austin a reason to chase him or to confront him, then you're not doing your work.
Let's talk about Drew Carey here for a moment. There's a Drew Carey pay-per-view, and the WWF has been promoting the shit out of it. And Meltzer thinks that maybe it was some sort of cross promotion where because Drew was in the Royal Rumble, now the company will help promote the pay-per-view. He says, by the looks of it, you would think that WWF was a co-promoter on the venture, but they're not. I've always been fascinated by Drew Carey and his little stint in WWF because it felt like he wanted to be anywhere but there. But we roll out the red carpet for him, and he has a pitiful Royal Rumble appearance. We promote his pay-per-view, and then later we put him in the Hall of Fame. Meanwhile, Cyndi Lauper from WrestleMania 1, no such luck. What do you think that is?
Politics. Of course, you know what the answer is, Conrad. Politics. Somewhere along the way, she pissed in the wrong bowl of Cheerios. Either it was tough dealings with her husband and manager at the time. I don't know what lingers there in the cloak of darkness. I think Drew Carey on The Price is Right is funny and entertaining.
Sure.
I think he's a very talented guy, but let's remember, he started out as a stand-up comedian, working before 200 or 300 people, like a Zanies, working smaller houses. So when getting a big company like WWE that had a proven track record in selling pay-per-views to help sell your pay-per-view was a good business deal for him.
Of course. He
got stretch out of it. And so he was excited about that. Obviously, he was not excited about the Royal Rumble.
Right.
Because it was the unknown and there was physicality involved. He had to do a stunt. I don't know if he'd ever done a stunt before. Right. So you have apprehensions and you have worry. But what if I get hurt? So I can understand his apprehensions, but I never thought. I thought it wasn't as big a deal as we made it out to be. In other words, I think Drew Carey was very talented and still is, still on TV, still making big money. All that is great. In his arena, he's making big money. He left his comfort zone and came over to us for that one night thing. And I think he was very apprehensive about it and insecure about it. He didn't want to look bad. None of those big high dollar athletes want to look bad. None of the talent want to look bad. So that's kind of the way I saw that. You hope that it's going to get you some stretch on TMZ or Entertainment Tonight or whatever the case may be. Some of those, any of those shows, the E Network, all those things. But at the end of the day, is that going to help your buy rate? I don't know. I really don't know. So I don't think it did, quite honestly. I might be wrong about that too, Connie.
We're helping people save money at SaveWithConrad.com. And with all the economic turmoil going on the last few weeks and all the uncertainty it brings, here's one thing that is certain. Your home is still worth more than what you paid for it. According to the Zillow Home Value Index, the value of your home is still going up year over year, which means you're most likely sitting on untapped equity. Did you purchase your home or refinance it a few years back and got one of those really low COVID interest rates, and now maybe you're worried about giving it up? Well, here's something to think about. While the interest on your mortgage payment is low, the interest you're paying on your credit card balances is most likely wiping out those savings and then some. So what's more important, clinging on to that low rate or saving money each month? Let's talk about using the equity you've built up in your home and rolling all that debt into one lower monthly payment. Someone who just did that was our man Andrew, a maintenance worker in Tennessee. He needed to pay off some debt, and he needed to get a new roof and some new floors for his home. So instead of taking out more debt to do these upgrades, he came to SaveWithConrad.com to use the equity he's built up in his home and do a refinance. SaveWithConrad.com helped him accomplish all of those upgrades he wanted on his home. He paid off his debt, and now he's saving over $400 a month. He even got to skip his next 2 house payments. And you can do it too. Go right now to SaveWithConrad.com and let my team run the numbers for you for free. There's no cost and no obligation. And if we can't help you save some money today, we won't waste your time. It doesn't cost a thing to look, and you've got nothing to lose except some crazy high interest rates on those credit cards. You know you can do better. Start saving money today for your family with my family at SaveWithConrad.com. NMLS number 2129, Equal Housing Lender.